my name is Kelly. I'm a mechanical designer here at CNC Labs. Today, I'm going to be doing something different. I'll be actually running a job on the LongMill. And so I don't have too much experience with using the LongMill, so this will definitely be an experiment for me. So first, I'm actually going to design something on Adobe Illustrator and then converting that design into G-code through Carbide Create. And then finally, I'm running the machine using UGS. So if you have any suggestions on improving my workflow, I'm glad to hear in the comments. But for now, let's get started.
So the first thing I wanted to do was to design a flower on Adobe Illustrator. My ultimate goal is to cut something into MDF. And you can see that when I designed this flower, I just combined a bunch of shapes that were filled with white and outlined with black. I played around with the fill, meaning I made the fill to be transparent or empty so that I could see the underlying lines that constructed this whole flower. I took the liberty in cleaning up the lines myself so that the overall cut would look cleaner, and I also reduced the line weight a bit. So I'm just cleaning up the lines by deleting some lines, modifying their path a bit to be more smooth, because I just want this flower to look clean and simple. Because right now there's just a bunch of lines from the shapes that I've created. So in the end, I settled on using the abstract design that has all the different lines from the shapes that I've created, because I thought it was much more interesting and more playful. So now I will be converting the file into an SVG file so I could use that in Carbide Create.
So I opened up Carbide Create and I also opened up my design, my SVG file for the PNE. And I've had 4 toolpaths there already created. I created them and they're all the same except they are a selection of the different lines on my design. We'll just be testing with the default settings for the Nomad under the Carbide Create library, just because the LongMill is a larger machine, so theoretically it should be able to handle any feeds and speeds that the Nomad can. So what I like to do is just use the simulation tool to see what the path will actually look like when I'm actually cutting, so that I can make adjustments to my design or my toolpath. So I'll just be creating the rest of the toolpaths for this flower and the border. So for the flower, I'm going to be using the same default settings as I've shown you in the previous part. I will be cutting it to a depth of 10 millimeters with an 1/8 inch end mill. Whereas for the border, I'll be cutting it all the way down through the MDF material, which is around 19.5 millimeters, using a 1/4 inch end mill. So I'll actually be making 2 separate G-code files later on. You might be wondering, why don't you select all the lines all at once and create a toolpath there? Well, I'd like to do that too, but Carbide Create seems to be confused by my open contours and closed contours. As you see, the pink lines don't really intersect with each other, whereas the black lines intersect and create closed shapes. So instead of creating one cohesive toolpath by selecting all the lines all at once, I have to actually select groupings of lines that work together to create the paths I want. So to save just the flower, I disabled the border toolpath so that only the flower toolpaths will show up, and then I'll press save G code to save it as a .nc file, which is the standard G code file. And for the border, I'll just disable the rest of the flower and enable the border once again to save it. So the first thing I gotta do before running my job is to take this random piece of material off the machine because I want to put MDF in. This is some plywood. Oh, perfect. And this might get loud, so maybe I should block out the sound. But I'm going to be vacuuming up the chips, obviously. Makes it all nice and clean, flat for our MDF. So I gotta grab my MDF. And this is the one I'd like to use, but I don't know if you can see, but there are some glue spots, so I need to scrape those off. All right, got my paint scraper. It's one of the better ones we have in our office. And see, it comes off really easily, so no biggie. Oh, it's a little bit there. Might as well scrape it off. Make it flat as possible. Okay. I'm gonna run the back again just one more time for now. A little bit more glue. Okay, now it's ready to be used. Oops. Just want to align it to the bottom left corner. Just want to figure out. I need a ruler. So right now I just marked the approximate dimensions of the cut I'm going to make. So it was like around 300 by 300 millimeters. And later I'm going to flip it onto here and actually cut here. But I want to apply some glue on here before I start cutting. The glue is ready, so let's glue. stays. So I applied some glue here, but I only applied it to the area that I'm cutting. So I just want to make sure the rest of the piece is held down, so I'm just going to use some clamps. So I was about to start my job, but then I noticed something on the UGS visualizer, and I wanted to show you guys on Carbide Create. Essentially, I saw a step in the toolpath. There was an area where it was cutting deeper than the rest of it. So I wasn't sure exactly what that was, so I'm just investigating right now. I think it might be that I double selected something which caused it to cut deeper. But anyways, I'm just gonna check it out through the toolpaths I have here. So I tried disabling some toolpaths to see what that would do to the design. I think I selected a contour twice, or a few contours twice, and after disabling it, I noticed that everything's cutting to the same depth now. Okay, so we're back. I still have the old G-code open. You can see it's unusually deep for one area of my flower. Alright, so I downloaded the new file. Let's see, let's go through. Okay. Alright, so it did simplify my design a bit more, which, you know, isn't too bad. But the reason why I think I double selected them in Carbide Create was because I was missing some details due to how I designed this vector file. But now look, it's all like 15 millimeters deep. So not bad at all. Alright, so our material is on the wasteboard, and we do have the right bit in the router. It is an 1/8 inch end mill. So we're going to zero our machine, and so we'll just be jogging on UGS. Moving to the front left corner. Okay, so we can, as you can see, I've raised the bit a little bit higher so that it doesn't mark the surface of the MDF. And before I turn it on, actually, there's one thing I gotta do. Put the dust shoe on, or else the vacuum does nothing. At least in my case. Just wanna raise it. So the viewing window is interfering with MDF, so I just gotta raise it a bit higher. These magnets are super strong. I don't know what else to say. Okay, so viewing window can move around. Put the hose on. And I think we're good to go. done. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so from afar, it looks pretty nice, but I mean, it looks okay. I definitely learned some stuff. First of all, the 10mm deep cut, it kind of looks too deep. It'd be very hard for me to put any sort of paint or whatever to outline this to make it look cool, but regardless, we're learning. Also learn, like you see when one of my lines gets really thin, it might not follow the edge of the other contour. So actually, I'll show you what it looks like on UGS. Like I designed it so that it kind of tapers out, tapers to the edge, like here. You see that? It gets very thin here. And so if it gets very thin, since my bit is like an 1/8 inch end mill, it doesn't get that thin, so it extends out like that. And you see that with a lot of my edges, actually, like right over here and here as well. It's supposed to follow this line, but it's kind of popped to the side a bit. But you know, it's not super noticeable if you look at this whole thing. So I'd say it's pretty okay. So I'm gonna try to cut the border now, and then we can go from there. Yep, I'm just raising my Z-axis so I can pull off the dust shoe. Yeah, excuse all the dust. The reason why that's so dusty is not because the dust shoe sucks per se. It's because in the middle of the cut, the hose came off from the cyclone. So I just attached it right now, but I didn't notice that until after I finished the cut. So that's kind of embarrassing. But regardless, right, I was gonna take off the bit and replace it with a 1/4 inch, if I can find one. Hold this for the pin, tighten it, give it a good wrench. Okay, cool. So, you know, as I said, only the fluted area really matters, right? Okay. We'll have to zero the Z again, but for now, actually, it's easier to zero it if you just... So I'll press return to 0. All right, I should... Okay, you see what happened? It went all the way here to the XY coordinate and then it dropped to the Z. When I do return to 0, it returns to 0 for X, Y, and Z. So I should have just returned it to 0 for X and Y because the Z height changed because of the bit change. All right, well, it didn't break, so that's good. So I zeroed the XYZ now. you know, the XY didn't really change. It was really just the Z. So, I think I will put this on, raise the Z a bit, and we'll begin cutting the border, which should be fairly quick because it's just a rectangle, but it does cut deeper. I'm gonna open up our second job, which is the border for this carving. So we have a rectangle. Perfect. So we've essentially already zeroed everything, X, Y, and Z. So I will be putting the tube for the vacuum on, and I'll show you that. Here we go. We'll turn this on. So the machine, the USB cable was unplugged, so I had to plug it back in and reconnect to the machine because once I tried pressing play, it said error starting file stream. So that means that I had not connected to my proper port because this cable was disconnected. So when I connected back to UGS by pressing the connect button, all my zero positions seem a bit weird, but my machine hasn't changed position. See, it's right where that corner is, and it's only 5 millimeters above the work surface. So I need to zero everything again. So X and Y are already at the zero position, but the Z isn't. So let's jog the Z a bit lower. Oh, what? No, that's not right. My machine seems to be off. Is it because the power is off? So power is connected, it's all good. At least connected on the power brick end. I'm just trying to see if my control board is connected, and it is. USB is connected. Okay. So I just needed to make sure that my control box was actually on, and it wasn't. So, all right, it's on now. Let's try disconnecting again. Going back to COM5. I always refresh it. Connect. Oh yes, that sound is the sound of an alive machine, so that's good. So 0, 0, X and Y didn't move. Let's jog it. Let's jog the Z about 5 millimeters down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And from the looks of it on my end, that looks like it's on the surface. So that's the Z. I will raise the Z up a little bit Before I run the job, before I start up the router, that is. Starting up the router. So I stopped it because there was only like 11 seconds left to my job, but it already cut all the way through, so I think that's okay. And the reason why I can tell is because we got T-tracks. Look, you see that? It cut through. This first attempt didn't look as nice as I hoped, and I wanted to get thinner lines so that I can accurately cut my design out. So I was just going to use a 60-degree V-bit because I know that the V-bit can produce thinner or thicker lines based on how deep you cut. I wasn't sure what exactly I had to do to create that effect I wanted, so I was playing around with the V-carves option, but it wasn't generating any paths for me. I also tried selecting the entirety of my design as one toolpath, and it did produce some blue lines for the path, but I don't think that's the effect I want. I want it to outline everything, not cut in the open areas. So I decided to start again, and I wanted to try using the advanced V-carve option. It seems to be able to create the paths I want, the ones that actually follow the lines of my design. But again, I have to select various groupings of lines. I can't just select the whole design. So I was wondering if there's anything else I could try out. So I finally decided to go back to using the contour toolpath, but this time just select the bit to be the 60-degree V-bit. I just chose one that was similar to what I had on hand, and I also used the default settings for the Shapeoko for MDF. I thought the LongMill and Shapeoko were comparable machines in terms of capability, so I thought the settings would work for the LongMill as well. As you can see, I was able to select all the lines in one go, so that's one toolpath for the entire peony, and I made everything to the depth of 1 millimeter, except for the border, because the border has to cut all the way through, so that's still around 19.5 millimeters. We'll be sticking with the 1/4 inch end mill for the border as well. All right, second job, here we go. Time to vacuum. Just want to make sure that there's enough space for my design. I did scale it down a bit just because I think it'll look a little cuter if it was, you know, a little bit smaller. So it was like 240. So I definitely have enough room. 240 is here by around 200. Yeah, I do have enough room. I think I'll start the cut around here, like an inch or two from the edge. Okay. So yeah, first we're cutting out the border, right? So let's do that. I don't need to change the bit. I'm using 1/4 inch. We'll see how that goes. I'm excited for this one. I think this one is gonna actually work out because I learned quite a bit from doing the first cut. But you know, we'll see. So now I'm using a 60-degree V-bit. Trying to see if this focuses on my hand. Whoop. Is it? Nope. You can do this. Yeah, ish. We'll just go like this. Anyways, yeah, it's a 60-degree V-bit that I believe we sell on our website. Okay, so that means that once I put this in, I need to re-zero the Z, because the Z height changes because this bit is different length. Might as well take it all out. Push the V-bit in, carefully, obviously. give it a good wrench. Okay, looks good to go. Put the shoe back on. Make it a little lower. Okay, I'm just gonna move this to a place that has some more material so I can zero it on this surface. Okay, I'm going to try to return to 0 to see where the 0 is. Yeah, looks good. Okay. So it's done. Wow. That looks really good. All right, let me take it off and show you guys what it looks like. Now that looks like way better. Oh wow, I'm really impressed by myself. Look at that. So the edges, so you can see that the lines that taper into one line, you don't see the little bit of extra line anymore, if that makes sense. It all comes together into one contour, and that is what I wanted. You see that? You don't see that anymore. What else? Everything looks clean. It's centered in how I laid it out on Carbide Create. And, you know, like as I showed you last time, actually I'll just bring it out. Oh. So all this, where the lines get very concentrated, you can see on this, it came out really nicely. It doesn't look uneven. I think maybe I could have cut this a bit deeper and it would have been okay. But I'm pretty impressed. Pretty big difference, eh? Here's the final product. It looks pretty good with the white paint marker. It gives it a more faded look. You know, didn't really have anything in particular in mind in terms of a style, but I think it looks pretty good. Next time I would probably try putting paint into the cracks, like painting it with a paintbrush and then maybe sanding it down. The edges, sanding down the areas that I do not want painted, because I really just want the outline to be colored. But yeah, I think this is a success.